Welcome to Blowing Off Steam podcast. The podcast is about comedy and whatever else comes to our mind. We are not as famous as Joe Rogan, but we're the third most bestest podcast that's run by an Arab and an Egyptian and a cat. This podcast is not typical to any other podcast. We're not going to go for 2 hours and a half, hopefully.
We learned a lesson.
Inshallah.
Hello. Hello, are you Kirill, by the way? How are you? Long time no
Ah.
see.
A long time no see. 2.5 years already, or maybe even more.
I think
Good.
more.
I'm good. Thanks for asking. You should have, you should have thought of the brand a little bit better. You should have just gone with the word blown podcast. That's
Blown.
it. Like you should have left out the word out.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have our guest host. Liora.
Liora, no
Hi.
microphone. Oh.
I'm just a girl. Yeah, red
Tell us a
lipstick.
We
Tell us a
don't
little-
discriminate.
Mhm.
Just for the sake of progressiveness or progressivity or whatever the fuck.
I swear
you
to
call
God, they
it.
say Arabs are the least progressive
No,
people
Kirill.
ever.
That's why you're here. You're female, male, them, they.
And
You see, and the princess too.
Jewish.
Jewish shit. Then you should have called somebody from Gaza. I mean,
You have Abed for that.
Abed, yeah.
Well, so Kirill, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, what can I tell you? I'm Russian. I'm 31. I have an autistic wife, an autistic daughter. My regular day-to-day job is an English teacher. I'm tutoring, been doing that for 6 years, English and German. Plus, I've been doing stand-up comedy for 7 years almost.
Probably
Yeah,
7.
I think
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
7 years. I mean, we
Yeah,
started
I-
at the same time.
I
so-
blacked out after your first joke, so I'm not sure when.
yeah. So something
and-
like that.
yeah.
And currently I live in Tbilisi, Georgia, not the state. Those stupid Americans who are going to be listening to this.
If I remember
You
correctly,
speak Georgian? Kirill, you speak Georgian already?
Po,
Gamarjaba? Gene svale?
që mi kartule ardzale në kargje, qërki dhe saflop magram.
holy shit,
Zalian Kargi. This is good for
I feel like I'm gonna
Russian
turn into a frog after this. Anyways, Kirill, if I remember correctly, you were like the first one to leave out of everyone. Like you recognized it early, yeah?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I was one of the first ones who left. I think that Oleg maybe had left before me,
Ah.
or
Yeah.
was still there. I don't really remember.
But you even left
Yeah.
before the whole special operations happened. You left when I think Navalny was in prison. Oops.
No. I left in April of 2022, so that was like 2 months after
Oh.
it started.
Oh
Yeah.
shit. Okay. And how was like how? Because I when you went to Georgia, there was no stand-up scene in English, yeah?
There was, we have just like every other place, every other capital, I think there are stand-up communities that put together some shows. Mostly, obviously, they are in the native language. In this case, it's Georgian.
Mm-hmm.
But they also had an English show. It's like once per week. And the guy who started those shows, his name is Nate. He'd actually been to Russia at least once. Maybe Abed remembers him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like he came to Russia back in 2019 or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have only like one show. And as of about 2 years ago, they banned all Russians from performing at their shows, which is very, very funny. I could tell that story if you wonder.
Yeah, we would like to hear that story. What happened?
So when I came here, we hadn't started doing shows yet because Dasha, our organizer, she still hadn't been here. So I was looking for some comedy, English comedy here. I found these guys. I started going to their shows. Everything was great. No hostility, although plenty of jokes at Russians being like immigrants and imperialists and so on and so forth. But I went with the flow that it didn't bother me. I correct a few jokes about that as well. And then more and more Russian comedians started coming here. And at one point, there were Imagine like 11 comedians in lineup, and only 4 of them are Georgian and 7 of them are Russian. So I think that started bothering them. And within the time we started doing our own shows, I kept going there more rarely. And then I saw, like, after one of those shows in the chat, because we had a group chat, I saw a gigantic, like, blanket of words by one of the Georgian organizers. And they said that basically, due to our audience complaining a lot about so many Russian comedians being at our shows, we therefore decided to ban all Russians from performing. That
And
was
by the
the
way,
official story.
when he said like a Georgian audience, it was the Georgian comedians who were the audience.
I got you. Yeah, yeah. Apparently, like Trump said, walls do work. Apparently, just one wall of text block all the Russians. Apparently,
Exactly.
nice. Okay.
So yeah, and that was at least the official story. I think the real story was different.
Mhm.
There was one. I think I could call him a comedian, like a Russian comedian. His name is Kirill Kuznetsov. Abed probably remembers
Opa,
him.
we know him, man. Come on.
You know him as well. The
Okay.
guy is weird. Yeah, the guy is very weird. But that's okay.
Yeah, like,
But
shall we start this
I think even
podcast?
Liora knows him.
I think I heard the name, but I'm
No,
not
no,
sure.
you know him. You know him.
Saying that a comedian is weird is, well, kind of any comedian. So
well,
describing any comedian.
he talks all the time in this Russian voice and so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah,
Like
yeah. We
that's
know.
That's Kirill, she, he.
Yeah.
Kirill?
Yeah.
Kirill is his name?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So the guy, I remember him even from back from Moscow, right? Times when I was hosting the open
Mhm.
mics there. So he has one thing. He can't work with hecklers. Like every time that somebody heckles him, he tries to respond to that, but it usually turns into an insult. Like early years Abed, I would say, who would just blatantly insult the audience.
About 8 years.
Something like that, yeah.
Huh.
So, and at the show, other guys told me that at the show, he had a heckler, a Georgian heckler. I guess he had a joke about like Russian Empire or something like that.
Mhm.
He had some Georgian audience member heckled him. He tried to respond, but it turned into an insult eventually. And after that, coincidentally, after that, they banned all Russians from performing. Now, I never bought the original story, so I think that's the real reason why they did that.
Knowing Kirill, I actually believe the second version more honestly. 'Cause
Me too.
I remember like because since Abed left, now I'm running the workshops to help like up and coming comedians, right? And I remember he just came to the workshop, he just crashed it, and there was like like a girl who never did comedy, and he was trying to give her punchlines, and even she recognized that it was not funny. And then he tells her, this is what his argument was. He said, stand up doesn't have to be funny.
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah, that's why I told you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think, yeah, I was at that workshop.
That was that guy. Yeah.
Well, obviously it's called stand up. You just need to stand there and
Just
that's it.
stand,
No need to be funny.
Exactly.
Fuck your jokes.
Exactly.
That's the mantra of a lot of performers, you could say, at the moment. Yeah. So now it's you and like Dasha. She does the in Georgia the mics. You and her host and all that stuff.
Yeah. Plus we have a Russian stand-up club here. It's called Bukhari Stand-up Club. I think they named it after Vova Bukharov, who is like a pretty popular comedian in Russia. They sold it recently because there was a group of Russian comedians called Commigration, and these are the comedians, popular Russian comedians like Ariana Lalaeva, like Ilya Ovechkin, and Dima Kolybelkin, and so on and so forth. So they moved, I think, to Spain, and before moving there, they decided to sell the club. The guys who bought it, they approached me afterwards with the idea of running shows at least once a month for now. And yeah, we are doing shows there like once a month. Like
In
the
English?
next time will be in
The
3
Russian
weeks. Yep,
shows,
English
right?
shows. English shows,
English
no.
shows.
English shows.
They do Russian shows mostly, but
Mhm.
they approached me with the idea of doing English shows there at least once a month, and that's what we're doing there basically from time to time.
Mhm.
And actually, my question is, what kind of comedians usually come to your English shows? Like, mostly Georgians or different?
Mostly foreigners, like expats, not Russian expats. Yep, we
Mhm.
have Russian comedians over there. Yeah, but surprisingly, for a lot of people, we also have plenty of Americans living here, Brits, Hispanic, and of course, a lot of Indian guys and girls as well. I mean, like there is an old saying that goes, if you have a medical university in your city, there are probably a lot of Indians over there as well.
Mhm.
And that's what we have as well.
Who the hell asked? Who the hell did this saying? Made this saying? I
Me.
don't get it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we do have some Georgian comedians dropping by every once in a while, but the issue here is consistency of performers. Not a lot of people are taking this seriously. I know one Indian guy who started coming to our shows and doing shows like about a year and a half ago, and he turned out to be an actually really good comedian. Like he's very witty, he's very funny, and he's been doing that ever since. Others not so much. It's like one time, like they would do it one time every 2 months or something like that. Dasha literally has to drag some of her friends and acquaintances that she meets at other English-speaking events right over here
Mhm.
to stage, onto the stage. Like please perform. And the last show that we had, we usually like have 10, 11 comedians performing. Last show it was 7. So it's getting pretty difficult to find someone to do that consistently. And I was all up for asking those Georgian guys to perform at our shows. Yeah, because I mean I don't give a shit about what they
The
that they
politics of
banned
it.
all
Yeah.
Russians, and stuff like that. The
Mhm.
show is a show. I don't want to burn any bridges like I haven't done with them. I still contact them from time to time. I go to their shows as an audience member, just to talk to the people. And but there was a problem because apparently pride and the human fucking factor gets in front of everything else, and
The
they
Georgian
are either
mentality, I think, also.
maybe yeah.
What's the Georgian mentality?
What's the Georgian mentality? Fuck
Well, you
you.
mentioned
If they
yeah.
don't like you, fuck you. That's the Georgian mentality.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned pride. Pride that is well, inappropriate at times, like proud of
If it's a pride
themselves.
parade, yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah.
Imagine Georgians doing a pride parade. That's what they think it is. And people are like,
They
no.
did.
They tried.
They did.
It
They
happened.
tried in 2021. There was a
Mhm.
Yeah.
pride parade in Rustaveli on Rustaveli Avenue, like it's the central square in Tbilisi. There was a pride parade, and guess what? A lot of radical Georgians ran out and beat the shit out of the pride paraders.
Yeah, because
after
they
that.
thought it was
Well,
about their
obviously,
pride,
yeah.
They did a pride parade and nobody came out.
Exactly.
It was
Okay.
the national pride, like what the fuck.
Uh,
So yeah, and that's the idea over there, because they might come off these comedians a little bit condescending when you're asking them to do like a show. You just approaching them, hey guys, do you want to do the show or not? And they would be like, find some very interesting excuses, let's call it like that, not to do
For
these
example.
shows.
for example,
For,
please.
for example, like Nate, the guy who like started all of this, I approached him several times. I was like, "We have a show. Would you like to do that?" And he was like, "Well, man, I am with these guys over here, so it's like some kind of loyalty and so on and so forth." And I've been there before.
Yeah, I was
and,
about to mention the same thing. Yeah. You
yeah,
saw like the
Belong
whole
to
Abed
that
thing.
remembers.
tribe.
Abed remembers like the 2017, 2018 shit when we had like two camps, and the guys at one camp were like, "Don't go and do other shows. You're either with us or you're against us," or something like that. That's the fucked up mentality that a lot of people have. In reality, when you're a comedian, you're like, the fuck do I care? They don't pay me to do this. I want to do as many shows as I can to improve myself, to improve my skills, to improve my comedy. And that's apparently like, some kind of tribalism and stuff like that.
That's what I said, yeah. Belonging.
Yeah, I find it very stupid, to be honest. If it would be one thing if they had like, 100 people at every show and every comedian gets paid, like $100 per set or something like that. But they don't have that, so why are you even doing this?
It's not even about belonging. It's literally, when they say, how do you know a person? Just give them a bit more power. That's what happens. It gets
They
to
don't
the
have
head.
this power. I mean, it's very typical of Georgians in general. You offer him a job, like Georgian men especially. You offer him a job, he says, "No, I want to be the manager. I want to be a boss." No one ever offered him to be a boss. That's just, in his fantasies. But he turns down the offer. So
I see how they are, like they're the hidden bottom in bed.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly how Kaha Kaladze became the mayor of Tbilisi. To be honest.
His name is Kaha?
Like, do you want to be
Kaha.
Kaha?
In Hebrew.
It's like, yeah, dude, do you want to be like, I don't know, our sports minister or something like that? He was like, fuck your sports minister job. I want to be a mayor
Believe
of
me,
the capital.
Is he doing a good job? Is the city clean?
Better than it used to be 3 years ago, if you believe what the locals tell you.
Then they offered him the janitor, and he aimed too high, man.
It will be a super janitor.
Yeah, a sportsman, you would have cycling, like, rings all around and all this lanes.
And going back to the original thing, with those guys, there was one other moment that got to me a little bit. When Dasha negotiated with the bar where we do the shows right now, in her words, again, that's what she told me. She told me that right after she started negotiating and they already had a deal that you can do events over here. The guys from that bar, the organizers of those Georgian stand-up shows, they approached the management of the bar that Dasha had an agreement with, and they're like, "Can we do the shows over here?" And stuff like that. So, but the managers, it's good people, and they're like, "No, we already have like agreements over here, and so no, thanks, but no thanks."
I like the idea that they do it so like in such a subtle way that all of them entered the bar. We won't stand up here, please.
Had they done that, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have a place to do shows right now.
Now you have shows at this bar like once every 2 weeks. So yeah.
Once every 2 weeks, yeah. We could do that more regular. Like once a week, for example.
Since like you perform, like a question I have, like since you performed like in Moscow, Russian audience, all of that before 2022, when it's just become Russians who think they're foreigners or English teachers, what's the difference between the audience between Moscow and like Tbilisi in the last 2 years for you?
Georgians, if you talk about like because we have different people in the audience, right? At our shows, we would mostly have like 65-70% expats, like 20% Russians and 10% Georgians. Like that's, if you ask me, that's how much I would say. But if you compare like Russians and Georgians as at comedy shows, right? Yeah. There is practically no difference. There is practically no difference. There could be cases, I've heard about them, I've seen them, when you go into like joking about the relationship between Russia and Georgia, for example, somebody might get soft a little bit, and heckle you
talking about
in
my
this
wife.
regard.
That's what they do.
so something like that, yeah. But in reality, nothing. Like there is practically no difference. If you're a good comedian, if you have a good set, they will treat you the same way they treat every other comedian. And I remember like when I came here and all of these talks about Russophobia, all of those graffitis, like these graffitis, they become popular, right? Like Russians get the fuck out, Russians fuck off, and I was wondering, like, just like Dasha, I've always wondered, why the fuck are these written in English? Russians don't speak English. What the fuck is wrong with you? Write those graffitis in Russian, then maybe it will work. But anyhow, and funny thing about those graffitis, most of them were done by one guy who was Russian. And to be honest, I don't blame him. I actually support him 100%. I realize why he did that, because I mean, have you seen the fucking rent prices in Tbilisi? Like, he wanted Russians to fuck off to pay less for the rent. So.
I think he's paid by the Russian government.
Maybe, who knows?
No?
But anyhow, if you like, when I came here, and I have this thing in my head, when there is something negative, for example, I know that there is some kind of prejudice towards Russian immigrants, right? I'm like, okay, cool, I need to write a joke about that, or a set about that. And like, I wrote 5-minute set about being Russian in Georgia and all of these things that Russians come across, and stuff like that. And Georgians were just laughing their asses off at that. So like, when you can self-irony, can do self-irony, they will appreciate that and stuff like that. Here, this is the thing over here. People, like, there is a general opinion, like the general opinion among youngsters, like, okay, Russians are bad, like, or something like that. But if it comes down,
I must say.
yeah, but if it comes down to one person or two people, when you're personally like communicating with these people, if you if you respect the culture, if you respect the fact that you are a guest in this country, you're not the local, you're not the citizen, you're a guest here, and
you
if
don't
respect
belong.
the language.
Forget about it. You will never belong here.
You have a sign on
Except
you.
that, and you might have a good life for the time being.
You have a sign on you. I don't want to belong here, and they're like, "We like you, man. Come here."
And if you respect the language, if you respect the language as well, you will have no problems at all, because there have been just moronic situations when the Russians would come to, like, to Georgian people, they would start speaking Russian. I'm like, but
that's me.
That's not
exactly.
but that's dumb. I mean, like, you're in Georgia. The national language here is Georgian, and 50% of people in Georgia don't speak Russian. If a person like is 35 or 40 and older, there's a good chance that they speak Russian. Yeah,
so,
there is a
Kirill,
really
let
good
me get this
chance.
straight.
But like, when you say like 50,
let me get this straight. Now you speak Georgians to Georgians, Kirill.
Yep.
You lying bastard.
He's adaptable. He's just a show off,
No,
I
to
know
be fair,
Georgian now.
you can just learn just one phrase, like ukasravat kartule arvici inglisurat to rusulat flaparakov. So it's like, I'm sorry,
so you're basically
Georgian.
asking permission to speak Russian.
No, I'm asking them whether they know English or Russian.
I like how he said it, like an English teacher. Did you see that? He did it like, I'm asking them.
Do you know how to say Russians get out in Georgian?
Nope.
Should learn
I've
that,
never
man.
seen those graffitis.
Kirill, it's not that we're recording this and we're gonna take it out of context. No, not at all.
I just got my residence permit 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man.
Language and all, yeah.
But for the residency in Georgia, you don't need to know the language or nothing.
You don't know to need you don't need to know the language. You need to know the language if you apply for citizenship here. You can do that. And it's pretty difficult to get that opportunity because you need to get
Belong.
residence permit, for at least 5 years, not live here for 5 years, to get residence permit consistently for 5 years over here, then you need to pass history exam, law exam, and language exam. And I always tell my Georgian friends, I'm like, guys, you have fucking requirements of Great Britain, but you're Georgia, you know? So
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Well, I
so
mean,
it's like that.
Georgia is still like better than Russia, you can say. So, I mean, would you rather Georgia or Russia?
Better how? Elaborate, please.
He's not gonna be scared for his life.
Why are you pointing at him?
Well, he's here
Better.
because he's on my screen.
I get it. Just
No, I'm okay with that. You know, I can say objectively why Russia, for example, has what kind of advantages Russia has over Georgia and what kind of advantage Georgia has over Russia. Goes both ways in reality. So
I'm just saying that Georgia has enough problems of its own, and maybe it's time to shift focus from these requirements.
Of
Well,
course.
they do.
Language, law, and whatever.
They actually
real
have a
problem.
protest of opposition parties right now as we
Ah.
speak.
That they love to do.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
of course, like Georgia has a lot of problems. For example, they have a lot of Russians, but it's still like Russia has more Russians, anyways. But Kirill, I guess I don't know if we should continue since Abed left us, but anyways, let's
Abed left?
continue. Well, I
Give
think
the man some time alone with his shisha. He
it's
needs
called.
it.
Oh yeah,
His
yeah.
cat.
I mean, that's the whole premise of the podcast. Smoking shisha, and we're blowing off steam, basically. Anyways, Kirill, I guess my next question is: are there like taboo subjects in Georgia that are not taboo in Russia, or vice versa?
Taboos. Well, it's not like taboo. You can say whatever you want. Yep, you'll just risking to get your ass kicked if you're being aggressive regarding some topics. You know, for example, Georgia remembers there is a pretty how can I put it? They're not even so angry, but they remember the history between Georgia and Russia. I mean, the last war between Georgia and Russia was only 16 years ago. That's not a lot, even though it lasted for 5 days. Yeah, but it's still like they still remember that. They also remember the massacre of 1989 when the Red Army was sent here to Georgia to suppress the protests, and a lot of people were killed during that event, and also several
What the
things
hell are
in the
you guys
90s.
talking about?
We're talking about what taboo
About
subjects.
you.
Trust me,
Taboo
Salam alaikum.
topics and subjects.
taboo
Yeah.
topics.
But
Yeah.
but as a comedian, for example, I've joked about like Russia occupying 20% of Georgia. Yeah, but in a
It's
joke
not
way, obviously.
occupy.
You know?
Wait. Use the Israeli term. No, I'm joking.
It's called borrowing.
Okay, borrowing, yeah.
Borrowing infinitely.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've joked about that, and the Georgians laughed at that because, I mean, like, if it's funny, it works, right? But essentially, there are no taboo topics. I mean, if you, for example, say that Abkhazia and Ossetia deserve to be independent to Georgians, you know, you might get some aggressiveness towards you because they still believe that this is Georgia's territory, you know, that it was basically
Kirill,
annexed.
if you get on stage and that's your first line, I can understand why people dislike your set. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Other topics, like you can criticize the government here without being afraid of receiving a prison invitation. Let's call it like that.
What's
Yep,
so
you can say
amazing
whatever
about
the
that?
hell you
What's
want
so
to.
amazing about that? I can do the same in Jordan from my house in the toilet.
No, man, they have cameras there now.
You know? I can even criticize your government while here. No problem.
But I mean, so there are no practically like I can't come up with anything right now that is taboo for discussing in Georgia. Although they did pass this anti-LGBTQ propaganda law a few months ago, But I mean, we still haven't had any cases of people actually being prosecuted by that law
Actually
yet.
being
So
gays.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there are plenty of that. Oh, let me tell you a funny story my wife told me. So from time to time, when my wife is fucking tired of being a mom, I book her a hotel nearby. It's a pretty cheap one, but a good one,
I
and
already
that she
like
can
you.
spend there. Thank you. Where she can spend a few days just from being a mom. And so once I booked this place for her. So she goes to the reception. They give her the key. They go like, okay, room 102. Go there. So she goes to the room 102. She unlocks the door. She opens the door, and there are two Georgian dudes banging each other.
Wow, she's a lucky girl.
And
Wow.
she told me my reaction was exactly this. And then she shows me like she opens the door and she goes, "Oh, sorry." And she slowly closed the door, went back to the reception, and she goes, "That room is still not free. Can you give me a key to another room?" so, so there are gay people in Georgia.
Mhm.
You can
Now you know it for a
say that.
fact. There
Shout
are
out
Yeah.
to
two.
Georgia, yeah. And oh,
But there are
Abed.
also a lot of Abed
No,
is
I think
frozen
Abed
again.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, ironically, yeah.
Fucking Starlink doesn't work in the jungle. So anyhow, yeah. But there are also a lot of people like they who dress up as hippies. You can see them a lot in the streets.
Mm.
They're not hippies. They just dress up like hippies.
At least I haven't talked to them yet. So you can see a lot of people who dress up as goths. So goth movement is pretty big over here as well. And in general, there is no there are no limits to what kind of clothes people might wear.
Self-expression.
So yeah, freedom of expression in your appearance, so to speak. So yeah, it's okay here. Yeah.
Are you planning to stay there?
Yep,
Yeah.
I do.
So
Well, first of all,
are you already used to like everything in Georgia? Like, do you have this routine that's okay with you? And I
yeah,
mean, and you're
definitely.
planning just to move on there, yeah? Just
Yeah.
continuously.
I mean, there are reasons, not only subjective but objective reasons why we're
Mhm.
staying here. First of all, if you think about moving to Europe, well, first of all, it's very freaking difficult to do for Russians these days. But people can say Serbia. Serbia is a pretty nice place. A lot of Russians move there. That's going to be more expensive to live there. Rent is more expensive, and we need at least like 3-room apartment. I need a workroom, obviously, to work. And my wife doesn't work. I'm the only guy in the family who works. And the reason why my wife doesn't work is because she takes care of our daughter. My daughter is autistic. She's 4. She doesn't speak yet. And she needs to go through therapy. And that's another reason why we decided to live here. After 2 years of like just no progress at all, we found one child center over here run by Russians. And they have wonderful therapists over there. And the price is affordable. Anywhere else, like close to Europe, like Serbia, it's going to be more expensive than that. And there is no guarantee that we will be able to find the same quality of a specialist. I mean, it took us 2 years to change at least 5 different child centers over here to find one. So
That's substantial.
those are objective reasons why we're staying here. Subjectively, I just like the place. I like Tbilisi. It's a wonderful city. It has it's really underappreciated by a lot of people, because when we first moved here, I was like, okay, it's probably gonna be worse than Moscow. It's not. There is the public transport infrastructure that is
It's a
wonderful.
real city. That's what I like about Tbilisi. And you
It-
have like the city life. Yeah.
and you
Vibrant.
have everything for everybody here. Like you have more historical districts like Vake, for example, which is like the central district of Tbilisi. You have a more European style district with a lot of tall buildings, with a great like transport infrastructure, shopping centers, and so on and so forth. Sabortalo, where I live currently, I think it's the best district ever.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
pretty.
you have fucking Didigomi, which is like Plichina.
How
I
is the
don't know, like
Didigomi?
that's the closest.
I like the name. I've never been there, but it
Didigomi.
sounds.
Wait,
Did
may I ask why, like you say it's like Vihana? In what way?
There are a lot of newly constructed buildings, yep, and there is no logical architecture put in how they are placing those buildings.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if, okay, we have the money, they told us to build it. Fuck it, let's open a fucking Sim City
It's
simulator,
yeah,
and
it's
make everything over there.
it's like a kid opened a Lego box and went woo.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Uh,
There is another city over here, and the second biggest city in Georgia. It's Batumi,
Mm-hmm.
but that's more like a resort place. That
Also, the
reminds
weather is
me.
tricky. The climate is
The weather is
trickier in
tricky, yeah.
Batum, so
Like
in
it's
what
not
way?
for
right now,
everyone.
What do you mean the weather is tricky?
It can
there's
rain, like yeah, it's rainy. It gets like can rain for several days straight,
Mm.
and I don't
there
know.
is the sea nearby,
Yeah, the
and
same.
the climate is very humid. For example,
Hmm.
right now I have a couple of acquaintances who live in Batumi, yep, and they tell me like if you live above the eighth floor, yep, then
Oh,
these
different weather.
days in November, yeah, you wake up at 8 a.m., you open your curtains, and it's Silent Hill everywhere. It's like
Mm.
fog as shit over there.
And two
Uh,
zombies to the left,
yeah,
banging.
exactly. And you have a lot of like smaller settlements, obviously smaller towns like Kutaisi, which is also a good place, but just not a lot of people go there. And a lot of smaller settlements like located in the mountains, villages, and so on and so forth. If you like tourism like that, yep, Georgia is a perfect place to be here. And if you like, for example, snow, there is like Udauri, which is a more of a ski resort. Now, I know a
Mm-hmm.
few people who actually live there, live near there. So they are like, we enjoy this, we like it, so let's stay there and live there.
What do
Um,
Russia like you say this? Uh, I want to talk about like for example comedians in Russia, yeah. The guys like who do Bukhari, yeah. So in Russia, they're like basically job is a comedian. So how did they support themselves in Georgia?
Comedy, also comedy,
Hmm.
but what they do, they don't limit themselves only with Georgia. They are
Uh-huh.
touring.
Ah,
They are
okay.
touring around the countries which are easily accessible for Russians,
So
like
Georgia, Egypt.
Armenia, Turkey, Georgia. You're laughing,
Okay.
but some of them actually do shows in Egypt from time to time. That's true,
Uh,
also. Serbia, of course, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and so on and so forth. Since there are a lot of Russians who live there, right?
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
It's easily a sellout a show every single time they go there. So
mhm,
that's how
mhm.
they live.
Well,
Yeah.
no, no,
Sorry.
continue your thought. Ah, you're
No,
done?
I finished. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
If you haven't noticed, Kirill, I what I like about him, what I hate
uh,
about him, he's like a button. If you press that button, that's it. You're gone.
okay.
I remember there was once when we were like hosting, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and we had like someone said, okay, guys, it's very important. Your hosting is about 7 to 8 minutes. Of course, the person who told us did 60-minute hosting, but never mind that.
Okay, I already
Yeah.
know who he is.
Oh man, them, not his,
Oh,
them.
okay.
Okay.
There too. It's like Mr. Jack. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like, and
Yeah.
you keep wondering which one is who. So
And like Kirill, if you like, what's so awesome about him is I remember if he has a joke and it doesn't work, it will work. I don't care, guys. I have a wife and daughter at home. I came here for this joke to work. You get what I'm saying?
Well, my question for you, Kirill, was because I know like you did when you were in Russia, you didn't perform in Russian, And now that you're in Georgia, did you start performing in Russian, or are you strictly doing
I
do
it?
that,
wanted to
yeah.
same I wanted to ask the same question, Omar.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah,
Okay,
like-minded
Liora,
people.
pause
You
for the
still
edit.
read my mind.
For the edit, Liora.
First time.
Repeat the question.
No, I'm not doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was really curious if Kirill is performing in Russian or not.
So yeah, I didn't hear the answer.
I do that from time to time. Unfortunately, I can't do that all the time because my work is usually in the evenings.
Mhm.
Because I'm teaching English, German, and all of my students are adults, and the most convenient time for them to have classes is evenings. But from time to time, when I have a spare evening, and Russian shows here are basically at least 4 times a week in different places, because there are like different places where different organizers, and which is even better compared to Russia. There isn't a lot of competition over here,
Mhm.
so you can easily apply for an open mic with different people, and so on and so forth. I thought the first time that I did that, I thought that okay, it's going to be very difficult because I consider myself like in Russian a rookie, and because I write my jokes in English, and then I have to either translate them into Russian or try to paraphrase them to sound more natural in Russian. And so the first show that I did, there was a guy, Dima, who was who still organizes the shows. I came there. He greeted me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm Kirill," this is like the first time in like 3 years that had done comedy in Russian. He was like, "I know you." I'm like, "How?" He was like, "Well, in Moscow, people kept mentioning your name. Like you're the guy who does English comedy mostly." So people know each other. People know each other. Like the word of mouth actually works very nicely. And it turns out that most of the comedians who do Russian stand up here know who I am. And there is a kind of, there is a kind of a trust towards you. They're like, oh, okay, we've heard your name so many times for so many years. So yeah, sure, go do the show. So it's easier to get a spot to perform in Russian here compared to Moscow. And Abed remembers how fucking tough was that at first. Remember those fucking shows that we used to go to where you're like, you want to perform, bring 2 friends with you.
Man, it's still going
And
on.
by the way, we have 20.
It's the same.
By
Just
the way, we
bring
have 22
5
comedians.
friends with you.
It's
No.
gotten
No.
worse, my man.
No, no,
It's
no.
really-
Like,
and
I
you know what's worse than it? Sorry,
Uh-huh.
sorry about
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know what's worse? I like when I was like performing there and I was seeing and I was even going to shows like not as a sorry for like it's there's the Adan, not as a performer, just I wanted to watch. I would see how many audience members and people like they brought their friends and their friends are just like, can we get this on moving on? Like, it's gotten much worse. Yeah.
The
Sorry,
worst
Omar.
part about that was that the way that it was, Abed had just started doing Russian shows at the time, and I tried to do that as well. So we went to the same show where it's like bring 2 friends, and so basically 1 week it's Abed performing, and me and my wife are his friends. I and my wife are his friends. The next week I'm performing, and I'm bringing Abed and my wife as friends.
Well,
So that
you
was
guys
the
get
thing.
we were comedy swingers, you could say.
Exactly. And the worst part about that, it's not even like this like requirement bring 2 friends. Like your friends have to sit there till the end of the
The
show,
end,
which
yeah.
is fair. Okay, it's shit when a first time comedian shows up with 10 of their friends just to support the comedian. Yep, and then they fuck off after the comedian is done performing. That's shitty in my opinion. But still, the worst part was that there were at least 20 fucking comedians on the list, and everybody had 3 to 5 minutes, and they would never even warn you if you how well you're doing. Yeah, they would just start the music. They would just start the music, cut you off, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
that
Push you off
was
stage.
yeah, so that's shit. And what's even worse is that all the fucking time there would be 3 or 4 more popular comedians who you could see on TV, for example, who would pop up at the show. And of course, they would have more time, 10 to
They
15
would steal
minutes.
the thunder also.
It's not even stealing the thunder. The show would drag for 2.5 hours without breaks.
Because
Now imagine sitting there at this bar full of people, most of whom are friends of some comedian who are like, can we get the fuck out of here, please?
Kirill, can I tell you something? Like I perform with you, I perform with all of you. I know there are a few people who, when you sit through their act, it's the same feeling, man.
And honestly, when you were telling me a show that would drag on to 2.5 hours, I had one comedian in mind who was saying, "Why so short, man?" I know comedians who would have like 3 hour shows at Jim and Jack's back when we had these nice venues. Oh
Yeah,
shit.
and the idea of why the famous comedians, like what Kirill is saying, because of them. You have the host who's on point. You have the comedians themselves, the open micers, they're on point. You have these people who are on television. Of course, not all of them, but you see, they give them like 7 to 10 minutes, which drags to 15 to 20.
Yeah,
You know, and you have to sit through this comedian who keeps on saying in the middle of his set, which is not working, "I am famous. Why is it not working?"
The guys from the Russian stand-up club over here, after the first show that we did there in English, we didn't have a lot of people over there. First of all, because an hour before the show, a fucking disastrous rain started, and it kept raining for like 3 hours. Secondly, there was a miscommunication inside at the club, because the show, I was told, and on the poster for the show, it was written that the show starts at 8 p.m. So I get there at like 7:30 to check everything, to meet everybody, and I see that they're doing some fucking kind of construction works over there. Something is broken at the bar, and I find the manager. I'm like, and I already have like five tourists from Netherlands, which is a fucking plus. You're doing the first show at the Russian stand-up club, and there are like five guys from Netherlands, right? I'm like, can I seat them? Can I seat them at the club? And they're like, oh, we are actually on our internal list. We have the show start listed at 9:30 p.m. I'm like, what the fuck? So we dragged it. We started 30 minutes later, simply because somebody fucked up, and so on and so forth. So long story short, we had 9 people there. And after the show, the managers came up to me and they were like, look, I think that the next time we're gonna implement the rule that if comedian wants to perform, they need to bring a friend. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that shit. And they're like, why? I'm like, first of all, you can get a small crowd of people by doing that, yeah, but that's not the natural audience. You cannot rely on these people coming back if their friend / comedian is not performing. So they are basically there only to support the comedian who's performing, and probably they are not coming back if you don't have this rule. I hate this because this is basically artificial audience, getting audience in there artificially. And I'm like, you should do just a better advertisement, because the only type of advertisement that they did, no target advertising, only if you post on Instagram, and for the management of the club who's been here for 2 years, they're like, oh, maybe you can help us with advertising. I mean, like, do you know which some groups on social media? I'm like, first of all, I'm not doing your fucking advertising. I'm just a host. I warned you beforehand. I will repost all the information about the show. Obviously, that's not a problem for me. But I'm not going to spend my time scrolling through some Facebook groups or Telegram groups, because it's your job. It's not my job. I'm not a fucking advertiser. And that was the issue. But the guys got me. We came to agreement, and now they're doing all the advertising by themselves. So
They do it
they
for
just
Russian. They don't do English anymore. That's the idea.
that's the thing as well. You know what they don't understand is that most of the people who are here, like compared to Russia, for example, where do you advertise English shows in Russia, right? In Moscow, Kontakte, Telegram, Instagram, maybe. Even though it's blocked, people still use it, right? In Georgia, it's different. You have Telegram groups which are only for Russian speakers. You know, that like the Telegram chats and Telegram groups are mostly for Russian speakers. Georgians and the expats who live here, they are on Facebook, on fucking
right.
Facebook. And this club, this club doesn't have any
School.
pages on Facebook. And I'm like, how are you supposed to advertise when your target audience is on another social network which you don't even have an account on? You know, so that's dumb as well. And that's what Dasha did, because Dasha is smart. She's done it for so many years. She advertises all of her events on Facebook, and she has a couple of thousands of followers over there, and Instagram as well. And that's why our shows are sold out every single time. We get like 50 people, sometimes 60 people every single time at the show.
I have a question for you, like a plus for you, like, but there's one more thing. You guys, if I like, you guys do one show every 2 weeks.
Yep.
Do you think if you guys did a show per week, once per week, you would get the same audience?
I think we would get the same audience because the rotation at the shows is good. Every single time we would get, like, at one show we would get like 40 to 60% new people, 40% of people who've already been at our shows. Then in other 2 weeks there will also be 40% of people who've already been at our shows, but they haven't been at our shows consistently at every show. You know, they come to the shows like once every month or once every 2 months. You know, they come back, but they don't do it at every show. So therefore, we have a good rotation when it's basically like 50-50, right? We have 50% of new audience, 50% of people who've already been at our shows.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
What? Do you need what?
Yeah, I just want to say that doing that every single week, I think we would get, I'm pretty sure we would get a sellout. But like, the reason why we don't do the shows every week is because Dasha just doesn't have time to to organize everything, because she does other English events as well.
Okay.
In
So here's my question then. You say like every 2 weeks you get like 50-50. So what about repeating jokes? How does that work?
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Repeating the jokes, that's my fucking problem, because I've told you before, like, we call pretty frequently, that because of work and stuff like that, I'm just fucking tired all the time. And that's my problem, that I'm like, I need to write new stuff and I do it very slowly. So when and I'm hosting, you know, like, I host most of those shows, right? And so when it happens, when we have this split of a crowd, right, I would specifically for every single show, I will try to write 2 or 3 new jokes, even if they're not brilliant. Just try to write something like that, and then I just work with the audience. Like, I'm just crowd work. I do crowd work, because that way I can make sure that everybody gets some kind of, you know, satisfaction, not from not only listening to my older
I like
material.
when I get the satisfaction from you, Kirill. Oh.
Yeah, digital
I miss your
satisfaction.
satisfaction, معلم.
I guess
to my OnlyFans. Yeah.
my question for you, Kirill, is, so now I'm also hosting, and what do you think about doing new material as a host? Do you do it, or you try to?
Yeah,
I
do that. I do that, of course. A host is in a very unique position at the show. It can be problematic, like with me. You know, I still have to do that to myself, to remind myself that I'm not the focus of the show. You know, I cannot take too much time, because I can go over time very often, and I have to, I like literally before every single show, I come to Dasha and I'm like, look, after 10 minutes, flash me. I would love if she did it like this, but no, she uses her phone. So anyhow, I tell her, flash me 10 minutes into the show, into the beginning, so I wouldn't spend too much time on stage. And she does it. That way I can control my time on stage and not do overtime. And that's what you need to do. But it's also great because in between comedians, a host can crack a joke or two, especially if a comedian was not very good or a comedian bombed, right? You need to get audience back on track. Because if you just go there and introduce the next comedian will come to a dead audience. Like if there was 5 minutes of silence, that's it. You know, you have to get the audience back. That's where you can try out your new material. That's where you can do some callbacks. What I like doing, I listen to comedians' materials and I do witty callbacks to their material that I've just heard.
That's also what I try to do. Yeah, like I try to listen and then I would search for a bit that I have that's similar to theirs, and then I would do it, and hopefully people laugh. But yeah, sometimes comedian kills it.
Well, I mean, there is the thing about the audience, and I give this example to every single person who asks me that, or to every single person who says it's the audience. It's never the audience, and you can argue about that. Obviously, there are some people who are just fucking assholes, you know, who just come to ruin the day for everybody. You would get such people from time to time at every show, but why do I say that most of the times it's not the audience? There was a show 3.5 years ago. Yeah, this motherfucker is shaking his hand because I'm always praising him, giving this example. There was a show 3.5 years ago at Jim and Jack, which is unfortunately closed already. Yeah. So there were 7 comedians on the lineup. I was there as well. I did 18 minutes, 15 minutes of silence, just bombing for 15 minutes. And every single other comedian bombed as well. Practically no reaction whatsoever. This Jordanian motherfucker gets on stage last and he brings them back. After an hour of silence, he brings them back. They're laughing their asses off. They're applauding him after every second joke. After that show, I'm telling everybody, it's never the audience. There is something wrong with you. You got to feel the room. Because here's the thing. When I host as well, at the beginning, I'll try every single jokes of different types. A clean joke, a political joke, a dirty joke, and so on and so forth. The reason why I do that is because I want to test the waters with the audience. Okay, what kind of audience do we have today? You know, are they into the dirty material or are they into clean material? And that's not for me. That's for the comedians who are waiting for their turn. Because if you have 5 minutes of sex jokes, but the sex joke material doesn't work with the audience, you have to adjust somehow.
But here's the thing. Here's what I like to argue. Because for me, I really like it when someone, like, I like it both. I like what you're saying. Like, you can change gears, basically. That's what, like, you know? Like, oh, they like politics, I do what? But I really like it when a comedian goes like dirty jokes or like just, you know, tunnel vision. I'm going to do that joke. Like, you get what I'm saying? Just goes 10, 20 minutes of dirty jokes and they're not working.
Well, it's also about commitment, you know, because a good example is like Nikolai Antonov. Even when it's not working, Nikolai is committing to the bit.
That motherfucker is a fucking beast. Yeah.
Yeah, he commits to the bit and then he eventually like breaks the audience. Like I know if you're doing sex jokes and they're not working, you're gonna be thinking, "Oh shit, I'm shit," and then nothing's gonna work. Yeah, but actually,
you gotta have the type of mindset that he has, because Nikolai is different. You know, he doesn't care. He just has this energy, and it's pretty infectious. Like once you actually start listening to him, it's pretty infectious to listen to the guy, and that's it. I remember, like we did.
He won't shut up. He
Yeah,
will
he won't
not.
shut up.
Yeah.
I remember we
No.
did a Punchline Festival in 2020, and they gave me and him a two-man show. And I was like, two Russian comedians doing like English jokes. No one will show up. We had a sellout at the show,
Mhm.
and so I asked Abed to be the opening act,
Mhm.
and then I went on stage, and I was like, and then Nikolai went on stage. The motherfucker, he just doesn't care. He's always in the mood, like he doesn't need to prepare for the shows. Like you can ask him, hey, can you do what you do at the shows? He goes, yeah, sure, no problem, and he will do these jokes. Sometimes I think it's not even joke for him, like it's not that he's on stage. He is like that. The
Man,
guy
yeah.
is always like that.
Yeah.
So he's a different type of a beast, so to speak.
Actually, because you were talking about how everyone bombed and then Abed comes on stage and he kills. I literally have the same story. We were performing at like the old stand-up club number one. We had like a shitty time slot, not a lot of people. Everybody bombs, and I leave the stage. And I'm like, this is shit. They don't know what comedy is. I was like new, and then like the lady after me, maybe you remember her, Maria. Let's not say her last name, maybe. But she goes on stage, she starts shitting on the audience. She's like, you guys don't know what comedy is. I saw these people like performing at a different venue. They were killing. Obviously, the audience didn't like her. And then Abed goes on stage, kills, and I'm like, how did he do it? To this day, I still don't know how he did it.
Well,
Look what's going
he
on now.
a fucking necromancer of comedy.
Hey, man. Don't. That's a high praise from you, motherfucker.
Mm.
Liora, do you have any questions for Kirill?
No, I'm
Anything?
just remembering my last time in Tbilisi, which was
Tell us.
this October, yeah, and I just went to this comedy show in Russian, and it was a lousy bar. I was looking for this bar everywhere, and I come to this lousy place. It's smelly, it's shitty, and I think, oh, this is the place. This is the right place.
Perfect
So
place for
finally,
Russian comedy. Yeah,
this is the
exactly.
stand-up place. Yeah.
It's called the Jim and Jack smell. You know.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but this is that was my first thought. This is Jim and Jackson, Georgia.
That smell of spilled beer onto the floor that no one has washed in a week or something like that.
Yes,
tell you something?
spilled beer and pee and just the vibe,
Yeah.
the stand-up vibe. So and I come there and they're like three people, foreigners and a couple of Russian people, and I think, wait, I was going to this Russian stand-up, and they say, yeah, we're willing to listen to Russian because we understand Russian. And I'm like, okay, this is a weird show already. A Turkish girl who understands Russian, then some Swedish guys who can speak Russian, but there were like very few comedians, and the jokes were so like similar to each other. They spoke about Russia, they shitting on Putin and all this stuff, repeating the same. And I don't know, it felt like nostalgia, or it wasn't really joking. It was like this well, to me, it sounded kind of pathetic because, just asserting that we are these expats living here. That was their material, basically. And all of the comedians repeating themselves. And the only guy that I liked was Georgian, actually. But he spoke fluent Russian, of course. And yeah, he spent like, I don't know, 10, 15 years in Moscow. That's the thing that just surprised me, and I'm curious what's the scene really like. Maybe that was just one open mic that I happened to see.
That's not actually the only. That's like a very regular occurrence, actually. Yep. And this is what I've been told. I was told after one of our shows where we had like half of the roster for the show Russians, and the guy came up to me, an Egyptian guy actually, and
Shout out.
yeah, shout
We're
out
making
to
it.
Egyptians. Yeah.
We're fucking expanding, motherfuckers.
Fun fact: if you look at the number of immigrants, like statistically, most of the immigrants right now in Georgia are Slavic. Yep, Ukrainians, Belarusians, Russians. Then the second place goes to India. the third place goes to Egypt, and the fourth place goes to Jordan.
By the way, yeah, it's you know how many people?
Wait,
It's
what
like
about Iranians?
three guys from Jordan and four from Egypt, you know?
Yeah, yeah. We have people from Iran here as well. Yeah, we do, but those are mostly not students. Those are people like either middle-aged people, yep, or people who are like in their 30s, and they come here just because they moved. You know, a lot of them buy apartments over here, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, motherfuckers, how the fuck do you have so much money? And how the fuck did you get it out of Iran? You know, like
Actually, I think they bought out a whole neighborhood, the Middle Easterns. Like the Marjanishvili, the street is just, it's a Middle Eastern place, basically. It's just
yeah,
like
there
a
is
market.
we have these ethnic regions, ethnic territories here of different of people of different ethnicity. Like 30 kilometers from Tbilisi to the north, we have a commune of the so-called Georgian Azerbaijanis. These are people with Georgian citizenship, but their ancestors came there from Azerbaijan. So they speak fluent Georgian, most of them. They speak Azerbaijani, and they also speak Russian as well. Then in Tbilisi,
Supposedly
we have
Turkish as well, they understand.
yeah, exactly. Then in Tbilisi, we have a metro station called Trista Aragvintsov, and this is an Armenian district. There are a lot of Armenians who live there. And yeah, Marjanishvili.
If you said 300 Spartans, I would have given you right,
300
man. I would have
300
sent you fucking money right now, motherfucker.
And Marjanishvili, yeah, it's a dominantly, it's not even Iranian district. It's more like
Turkish Arab.
Muslim district. Yeah. So that's that. And
but I've seen lots of Iranian like restaurants and stuff. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's owned by Arabs.
Yeah. We do. We have plenty of Lebanese restaurants here as well. Actually,
that's owned by Iranians. I get it.
Owned by Iranians. Yeah, owned by Iranians. That is true. That is true. Yeah, 100% true. But going back to what, going back to the question. What was the fucking question?
One second. What question?
Yeah, what question? Yeah, is it the same joking about
Russia, Putin, and all?
Russia? Yeah, there are plenty of that. I got one guy after the show coming to me. He was like, "I wish there were fewer jokes about this. You know, we are Russians in Georgia, and so on and so forth." I get that. If I do have this material, but at the shows, the thing about the thing about that is that when you're a comedian, you want to write such jokes that are not attached to a particular territory. You don't want that material to dominate what you have, right? Because I want to write jokes that will work everywhere, you know, regardless of the place where I live in. It's nice when you can write such material, of course, yep. But what if that material is like 50% or maybe more of what you have, of the jokes that you have? You know, you move any other place, you're fucked. Like we had at one of the shows, we had a Russian girl who translated all of her jokes into English. It's okay. But she was cracking jokes about Russian comedy scene, name dropping some popular Russian comedians, and we have like 65% people who are from other countries who have nothing to do with Russian. They're like, what the fuck is she talking about? You know, like we don't understand that. And yeah, of course, that is the thing. But yeah, a lot of Russian comedians joke about this political stuff and so on and so forth. And sometimes, like, you're right that sometimes it's not a shame, but it's like, why are you doing this? You know, are you doing this
Can't
because
you get over this? That was the question that I had.
Not even,
in my head,
it's
like,
not even,
or maybe being
for,
stuck on this stuff.
Yeah, for you, that's a valid point. For me, it's different. For me, it's like, this is not your strongest suit. It's not the best topic that you can write about. Like, I write about politics very rarely, you know. because I don't. It's not my strongest suit. It's like Dara O'Brien once said. He was like, sometimes after the shows or in social media, I get these people who ask me, "Oh, Dara, you joke about Protestants, you joke about Catholics, but you just can't bring yourself to joke about Muslims now, can you?" And then he goes, "Well, to those people who think so, I can tell you this: I don't joke about Muslims for two reasons. One, I don't know anything about them. Two, neither do you. So fuck off." That's the thing as well.
I have a question for you, because we're you have 10, 15 minutes. The guys, Liora and Omar, they have a roast battle to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently we do. Fuck,
So
man.
for just 10, 15 minutes more, I want to ask you something. It's still concerning comedy. What motivated you to start comedy? Two, what motivated you to continue comedy? And three, what motivates you right now, in these years, in this turbulent time for you, changing to continue doing comedy?
Well, the way that I started comedy, it's actually pretty trivial. I had at the time I had broken up with my ex-girlfriend, and I needed something to distract myself from. Plus, ever since 2011, I have been following stand-up, because in 2011 nobody knew what stand-up is in Russia, right? For
Yeah.
Russians back at the time, stand-up comedy was fucking Comedy Club on
Comedy
TNT
Club.
channel,
Yeah.
which was shit. It's not
And
like real stand-up. And my friend at university, he actually told me about George Carlin, Dylan Moran, Stuart Lee, Jimmy Carr, Louis C.K. And I started watching their comedy. I was like, man, this is good. This shit is actually funny. And it's relatable because it's based on reality. And these are just a very funny thoughts, hyperbole or exaggeration, some wittiness about that. I loved that more. And ever since then, I couldn't watch these traditional Russian comedy programs, And I'd been thinking at the time, should I try, should I not? So I started doing that. I went to the Alibi Club. I think it's still opened
It is.
in Moscow.
The sign is still there.
The sign is still there. Yeah. I went there because back at the time, it was one of the few places in 2016 or 2015. I think 2016 it was. So it was one of the few places where at the time the stand-up was, right? So I went there, and the host, Kirill Voronin, I signed up there, and I didn't know how to write comedy at all. So I just took something from my head, just something not related to actual life. I went there 3 times. I bombed there 3 times. The third time was so horrible, the host heckled me during my set. And that was, oh shit. Then I still went there once as just as a guest, as an audience member. I met a British comedian, Milo Edwards, who at the time he was basically headhunted by TNT to be one of those foreign comedians, because they wanted to make an international lineup for the first open mic on TNT show. That was the very first season. With Milo and Ivan Yavits as well. I think he was at the first season of the show as well. Yeah, and so we started talking. I think he was just happy to speak English to somebody, at the time. And he told me about this place called Jim and Jack's, where they had English shows over there, And I started going there as just an audience member. Then I started going there as a comedian, and so on and so forth. There was one moment where I was like, I will never do comedy again. I'm going to this personal territory, but fuck it. I've talked about that so many times. At the beginning, when I just started doing comedy, I was stealing jokes. Like most of my material were stolen jokes. because at the time I had no self-confidence in myself, especially after those fucking alibi shows. And I got caught after a year, and they blackballed me from every single place, from every single venue, from performing. And the only place where I could still go and perform was Jim and Jack's. And I was thinking about of quitting, and there were two people who told me, basically supported me a lot, told me, no, you should continue doing that. One of them was my wife at the time, my girlfriend. And I remember, like, when the moment I wanted to tell her, because she kept coming to my shows, to our shows, and I was like, how the hell do I tell her that I'm a thief, that I'm stealing jokes and so on and so forth? I had the like red face. I was just very over dramatic, and I was like, so I'm stealing jokes, and she was like, and that's it. So that's it. That's the only thing that you want to say? I'm like, yeah. She was like, why the fuck are you even bothering? I'm like, well, I'm stealing. And she goes, dude, I'm in, and she is a professional musician.
So
and she goes like, dude, I played in so many bands, and musicians steal from each other all the time. That's not news for me. And the other person was Abed, who was actually like, really, he was like, look, you fucked up. You know that. Clean slate. Start going there. Start writing your own shit. And that's it. And I did that for a year. I went to Jim and Jack's. It was right from the beginning, zero. Like I hit the ground. I was like, okay, starting from the ground up. For a year, I was going there, writing my material, testing my material. And a year after, the guys who blackballed me, they approached me and they were like, so we've been hearing these things about you. Do you want to come to our shows? At first, they allowed me to participate in open mics, and then they led me to the paid shows. And for the next 2 years, I was under a fucking microscope. They checked every single fucking... I want to see how they did that,
Here's how I did it. Here's how I did it. I just Googled what Kirill likes.
I just, like, I in my head, I would like to think that those were my first stalkers, like, who were just... who were just like under the microscope looking at every single one of my jokes and so on and so forth.
Look.
And that was and I'm actually grateful for that, because that was the time when I finally found my style and the way that I want to write my jokes. Because now I was in a different group, because if some comedians would have, especially those who you have seen for a long time, and that they're funny, that they write their own shit, right? If you hear a joke from them that sounds similar to some big time comedians, or someone like that, you will think like, well, that's just a coincidence, like, great minds think alike and so on and so forth. That's one of those great minds has a Netflix special for $1 million, and the other is performing in front of 10 people in a bingo hall. But still, in my case, it was different. If my joke ever sounded similar to someone else's joke, it would be like, you're stealing. And one time, it went to such a fucking moronic end that they're like, this joke sounds similar to this comedian's joke. And I'm like, I have a proof that I wrote this joke much earlier than this motherfucker ever spilled it out. So fuck off. And that way, my style at the time was, I'm writing only about my experience, whatever happens in my life, whatever. And I write my jokes when I feel rage, like when I hear something stupid, or when I see something stupid, and that kind of boosts my mind, and I'm like, I start writing. And after that, I was like, this is only my personal experience right now. I got married. Okay, let's see what kind of personal details in my experience I have about marriage that I can turn into jokes. I got a kid, the same thing. And ever since then, I practically never had similar jokes to anybody. And that is a problem, because I can't fucking watch a lot of comedians these days, because if my mind catches a joke, and I forget it, and then when I trying to write on a similar topic, And my mind goes like, okay, here is an idea. And then it turns out that I've already heard that idea when I watched a comedian on a YouTube, like, or on TV. That's why I practically don't watch any comedy at all right now. I watch only a few of them. Like if Louis C.K. drops a special, I'll watch it. If Gary Goldman drops a special, I'll watch it. And so on and so forth. So my motivation at the time was, and this is what Abed told me as well. This is like, he was like, I know that you're a funny motherfucker. Like that's what he told me.
That's what he
and
told
I was
me.
like, yeah.
That's what he tells everyone, I guess.
Have you also stolen some jokes? So yeah, but anyhow, and in my mind I was like, fuck you. I know I'm funny and I can be funny and I will be so funny that you will come back to me and you will ask me to do your shows. That was the mindset. And for a year, the only place I performed at was Jim and Jack's, which I'm fucking grateful for because I met a lot of great people over there. What? Yeah. So what?
What was that sound, Omar?
That was
that was the third question as well. Like, why do I keep doing that here? Simple 2 reasons. I like it and mental health. Because I work practically every week. I work 7-0. I work every single day. My wife has been dealing with clinical depression for the past 3 years, plus autistic kid. And I needed to get out sometimes, to zone out from all of these issues and problems that I have and do something that I like doing. And besides, there is an ego thing as well. Because every time that I go there, I'm like, I want to have a great show. I don't want to go there and just like, let's like 5 minutes and shit like that. And no, I want to have a good show and I want to be the best comedian at the show. Because that's just like what I want. Ego.
Now we got to the part where it motivates you to continue comedy, right?
Well, he already answered that question. But Abed, I guess my question is, are we gonna do the news or no?
Yep. Hey, just a sec.
Yep.
My headphones turned off.
Yeah.
Okay, it's back. I can hear you. Yep.
What's up, Omar?
The news. Are we gonna do the news or no?
I don't think you guys have time. I just have one more question. Plus, who cares about orca throwing poop? You know what?
It was funny, man.
Omar has this funny idea. It is funny. The idea is very funny. The problem is because on this podcast, it's kind of we're still testing the waters, basically.
We are.
Okay.
Like, Assalamu alaikum. I present to you pants.
Alaikum salam.
So here's the thing. He wants to take a piece of news. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because everything changed and I cannot remove her from the laptop. Piece of news about an orca splashing poop. What should we do with this news, Omar?
No, but man, we already did this whole thing where we get like random pieces of news and we just read it and riff on it.
Okay.
And we usually get funny. We got all our best clips from riffing on news.
Wait,
with
we have
Arkady.
wait. We have clips?
Well, in the
That
future.
was the same question that I had.
No,
like, clips?
In theory,
no.
we have clips and reels and the website and
well,
all.
we were planning on doing the we already promoted it on our last episode.
Yes.
We're having a shorts page on Instagram. Just Abed and I need to decide on the fucking name, which
we already decided. It's whatever you want.
Okay.
That's the name. Whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Yeah, please follow
Whatever
us.
you want. Yeah, that's great. You know what's funny? You just reminded me today. We were supposed. I ordered a ring for my wife because when we were moving, when we were moving flats, she lost her wedding ring. Somewhere in all this stuff, and I ordered her the new one, and we're supposed to go there and get it. And it arrived at the post office, but we couldn't get it because the shop that sent it to us, they have to fill in the declaration when they send something to Georgia. and they have to fill in some information in Georgian declaration. They didn't need to use the Georgian language here, but they need to write everything, at least in Latin alphabet, right? And so my wife goes there and she stands there for a few minutes. Then she comes to me and she goes like, "Look, I couldn't receive it." And I'm like, "Why?" Because in the there are two fields. There are two fields that they need to fill in before sending. It's Saheli, which means name, and Gvari, which means surname or second name. And instead of writing my wife's name and second name, they literally wrote Saheli and Gvari. So they wrote name, surname.
Oh.
Just the words for name and surname.
You know what that's like? That's like when you're cheating from your classmate and you cheat his name and everything and all of that.
Yeah.
No, it's like from a dumb joke, when you're like, say your name.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same shit.
For me, the whole
Okay,
point of the
yeah.
story was to understand that you're an adorable husband. That's it. Buying
Oh,
your
yeah.
wife
Thank you.
Cannot imagine how he is.
a ring.
And
A
he
ring.
I
is-
can't
does
hear
not
any.
tell.
Fucking hell.
He is, and he left me for his wife.
You didn't want to move to Georgia. You thought that Russia is better. You chose Russia over me, you fucking bastard.
Okay, you win.
Well, don't worry, Kirill. He changed his mind very quickly.
Yeah, after you left, it took me 2 years. Then
Mhm.
what can I do?
You
So,
know.
yeah, Omar.
Anyways, no news apparently, yeah. Since you guys were shitting
okay.
on my idea. You run the podcast, man.
Bro, you know what's so funny? It's not that I run the podcast. I opened the piece of news, and here's the piece of news. Orca throws poop on the audience in an aquarium. That's funny because
It's-
Omar is apparently 6, and me too, to be honest, because I also found it
It's
funny.
fucking funny.
But
You're just embarrassed of me, I suppose. Next episode, you will
Wait,
be
wait,
on your own with
wait.
your orca and pooping jokes. So
what do you
have
mean
fun.
I'm embarrassed of you? Dobry den. Omar.
Mm.
At
Uh,
first I heard burka pooping jokes. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Which is actually more relevant in Abed's case.
What do you mean? I poop burkas? Nothing.
I don't know. You have something to do with burkas these
So
days.
that's how they produce Claudius in Jordan.
Mhm.
Okay, I
Oh,
got it.
man. We're not posting this episode, by the way. All of this is gonna be cut. All of it's gonna be like poop, 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 poop. That's what it's gonna be. Okay.
We literally started this episode with me telling you that you need someone from Gaza at the podcast.
Hey, man, and we come full circle.
Man, it's a good hook. It's a good
Yeah.
hook, man. People
Yeah.
want to know.
But I have one last question for all of you because the guys have to go. They have what do you call it?
The
How
fucking-
Roast.
Kirill, you did I remember you did the costume roast, right?
Oh shit, yeah, we
A
did.
Halloween roast it was?
It was on Halloween, and we dressed up as characters, and we were roasting each other in characters.
Mhm.
So, like, I was dressed up as Jesus, and I was roasting my counterpart
Moses.
as Jesus. No, the fucking guy was an undertaker, dressed as an undertaker, and I was like, he didn't even look as an undertaker. He looked like a typical British gay. So, like, I was. It was very tough. Roasting Jesus was much easier.
Well, I guess nailing him was much easier.
Well, I mean, also Jesus was a Jew technically, so he was.
Technically, yeah. Technically, he was.
What do you mean
he was.
technically? He was a
He
Jew.
was Jew, yeah. Well, yeah, but then he.
The first Mossad undercover agent, like in history.
So what you're saying is that Mr. Almighty is a Mossad. No wonder they know everything about everyone.
You see, and people still don't believe. People still don't believe.
Okay, to wrap this up, Liora, any questions? Anything you would like to ask Kirill or tell him or whatever?
No, I'm not gonna ask anything because Kirill is gonna elaborate for another hour and a half, and I'm already
Thank you
thinking
for that.
what I'm gonna
I have
wear
a
for the
question.
roast. because
Imagine,
I just want to
imagine
steal the looks because my jokes are so lame.
imagine like when you text. Do you have the guys, Omar,
Yeah.
Liora? I also want to ask you. Do you have this thing when you text Abed more than 3 sentences and he goes like, a fucking wall of text. I'm not gonna read it.
No,
Or is
I
or
usually
is it
split up
exclusive
my
to me?
text. I split up my text.
See, Omar treats me like a 3-year-old, just bit by bit by bit.
Yeah. Well, because
Well, that's a smart step.
I don't like
Making this
using
way you have-
punctuation because I have to go to a different tab on my phone to use punctuation. So to make it easier for them to understand, I just split up my text. And usually, like when it's done, that means it's the first sentence, basically. So I think that's easier
You know
for.
what, Omar? It was very funny when we reached the point, but then you had to
I had to
go
explain.
away. Yeah, you had to fucking-
Anyways, here's my
I
joke.
send circles.
Here's
Yeah,
my
I just
joke.
send
Oh,
circles.
here's my question for you, Kirill.
Joke.
Mhm.
Do you think
it.
Orca is shitting on people funny or not? Come on, man.
Fuck. I think that burqa shitting on people is funny. Still going back to that thought. Depending on okay, let me answer like this. Depending on the amount and the color of shit.
But here's the thing. See, if you read the article, it's shot on a TikToker. Even funnier. TikTokers.
Those fuckers deserve that, you know.
And see,
those fuckers deserve that.
see, that's why we need to do the news
We
bit.
will. We
We
will.
I think that this is what they need to do to all of the Kamala Harris's supporters, you know, make workers shit on her,
Opa.
on
That's
them.
not gonna happen. I texted you about this, yeah? Like in
Well,
October in Mexico, they elected a progressive female, like the first like the first female president, basically, and she's a progressive.
mhm.
You know?
Yeah,
So everybody's gonna jump over Trump's wall. Every Democrat.
That's gonna chuckle.
That'd be so funny for me, man. That happened.
You know, my question is like, how the hell did Orca shit on this TikToker? I mean, like, what was the position? Because I don't even know where they defecate. Which part? Where
guess-
is the hole?
No. Actually, I actually had the same question, but my question was, what does whale poop look like? And I googled it. You don't want to know, honestly.
Wait a minute, Orca poop.
That's gonna be a weird.
It's
Kirill,
not
for
what I
real,
expected
hold on.
at all.
Just
Kirill,
like I said, 1 more hour of discussing orca poop and whatever not.
You see?
I found a product on Amazon that is called the original bag of Orca poo.
Oh yeah,
What
yeah.
the fuck is this?
It's good for your skin, by the way, Kirill. Try it. Cures depression.
I think you're supposed to eat it, but still.
Oh,
I love the thought that both of you are gonna be one day at the airport, or you, Kirill, will be at the resident thingy in Georgia, and they're gonna go. Your search history is very interesting. Burka poop, orca poop. What the fuck?
he was constipated, people. Just chill.
Yeah. So, Kirill, to close, and please, Kirill, please.
Make it short, yeah, I know.
No, make it long. I don't care. It's their problem. They can do it anytime.
We can
like,
cut it, Kirill. Don't worry.
time with this. What's the one piece of advice that you would like to share in stand-up? I'm gonna try to be specific with it.
In stand-up, yeah?
Yes.
In stand-up. Don't drop a joke. Just don't drop a joke if 1 or 2 or maybe 3 people came to you after or during the show and told you that that joke is shit or that you are insulting somebody. Don't drop this joke. That's a piece of advice that I would give.
I assumed you would give a different kind of advice, like don't say the N-word on stage.
I did that actually.
I know that's
here.
that's why I said it. Because I remember Abed telling me the whole story. Is like Kirill's like, Bill Burr would have liked me, blah blah blah, and then he goes, like, next day he apologized, and I'm like, oh god damn.
The funnier thing, the weirder thing, I thought that when you think that is when I should have been punched in the face or yelled at right at the show, but no, I got yelled at right into my face by one girl after cracking a porn joke. Apparently, porn jokes are the new black. You know.
Hey, watch out of the P word.
I had like a similar thingy happened. Well, I got yelled at by a comedian. I uh I had like two hijabi women leave the show. It was like a full room, two hijabi women leave the show because I was doing a joke about me getting raped, and they didn't like it. Well, I'm not getting raped.
You're assuming that.
Well,
That's why they left.
You're
So.
assuming you're getting raped. I like Liora.
yeah.
Highly unlikely, though.
Well, yeah, I'm not getting raped in the joke. I'm but the guy starts shitting on me, and I'm like, I didn't know they were gonna hate it. But yeah.
Yeah. So you see, that's the thing. Don't drop a joke if the majority of people laugh at that, and you get one or two people yelling at you or telling you that you should never say that joke again ever in your life, because you are like, what makes you unique, every single person unique, is your own approach to comedy. And if you look at the comedy scene, like everywhere, especially considering Netflix, look at how many fucking specials people drop, and you're like, who the fuck is this? You know, I don't know them. Most of the comedians these days, in Russian stand-up for sure, in the US, in Great Britain, most of them sound exactly the same. They have the same joke structure, they have the same delivery, they have the same type of jokes. Why does that happen? There are a lot of reasons to that, but one of those reasons, I think, is when they're trying to apply their own style of writing jokes, or their own risky style of writing jokes, and then somebody tells them, don't do that anymore. It takes only one or two audience members to do that. You know, people are very sensitive, just like comedians if they're just starting. And by doing that,
comedians voted for Kamala Harris.
Exactly. Yes. Fuck them.
Wait, what? We're a pro-Trump podcast, apparently, people.
Dude,
I didn't know.
I enjoyed Jimmy fucking Kimmel crying during his show.
He cried?
And he was talking about that. Yeah, the motherfucker cried. The bitch has cried.
It's gonna ruin his blackface.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or is that Fallon? Which one did the blackface? I don't know. I get them mixed up.
So anyhow, yeah, and the reason why a lot of people sound similar is because there are a lot of reasons for that. But one of those, I believe, is that somebody tells them, don't say this, drop this joke, or correct this joke, even though the majority of people are laughing at that joke. Don't do that. That will help you come up with your unique style. And it will make you stand out from all the other comedians who sound similar, who have the similar delivery, and so on and so forth. Comedy is not only about making people laugh, but also being unique. And you want to be unique. You want people to remember you as a comedian. So don't do that. And just like Nikolai Antonov, just go with your shit all the way. You know, like.
Literally.
Yeah. No. I just wanted to say, for me, I kind of, when someone tells me don't do this joke, I kind of want to do it more. I don't know why. It's just like
it's
the forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, chill out, Mr. Romantic.
Like I remember when that was like a long time ago. Like I did this show. I was invited to this show, like this gay club, and the first thing the lady tells me was, don't do any jokes about the LGBTQ. And I didn't have any LGBTQ jokes, but I was like, now I want to do it. And I came up with something, and it was shit. But anyways, I did it anyway. So
then change the letters. That way it will come better. And on that note, Liora, do you have anything you want to share with us, except your socials? Where can people find you?
it's all in the description, people. Like,
yes, don't leave it out.
Leave it out. Okay, so block it out. Liora is not Liora when she's on our podcast. Why? I don't know. Apparently, we're not up to standard, or maybe we are. So, Omar,
anyways,
you take us out. Thank you so much, Kirill, my man.
Anyways, people, thank you guys. My name is Omar. Thank you, Kirill. Thank you, Liora, for joining us today. My name is Omar Hifnawi. Oh, sorry. Follow us on social media. Everything is in the description. Hopefully, by the time this episode's out, we're gonna have the fucking what's it called? The Shorts Instagram page ready with videos.
Yeah, website, everything. Yeah.
No
No,
website.
no need for
No
website.
website.
That's
Okay,
reserved
okay.
for the plus 18 stuff.
Yeah. Follow me, Abed, Kirill, Liora on everything.
Kirill, what's your Instagram? Where can
Uh,
people follow you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter or X. We are very nice to advertise it at a podcast on a podcast that is based in Russia. That is
Well,
wonderful. No, you can find me on Instagram, on X at handle Dumb and Dandy. So that's my Twitter handle and Instagram handle.
thank you, Dom and Dandy. Thank you, Liora. Thank you, Omar. And thank Mimi. See you
Thanks,
guys
guys, for
later.
Okay.
inviting
And
me. Yeah.
look forward
Thank
to our,
you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Hopefully, we see you again, Kirill.
wait. Look
Uh-huh.
forward to our next guest. Hopefully, she will be a very interesting person. Thank you so much.
Who the fuck is our next
Thank
guest?
you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Ciao.
Ciao.